SQL is one of the most used concepts whenever we are talking about database management system. In this tutorial, we are going to talk about SQL in just 20 minutes, and we will have a look at what is database and how we can actually make our own database management system. So let's get started with the tutorial. But before start the video, let me introduce that Great Learning has come up with a brilliant idea, that is Great Learning Academy, where you will get almost 80 plus free courses, and after complete your course you can claim your certificate as well. And if you want to do these courses in your mobile application, that is also possible using Great Learning app. And if you like the video, then please do let us know in the comment section how you feel about the video, and also like and subscribe Great Learning. So let's get started with the video. First, we will have a look at what is database. So database is basically a container where data can be collected systematically, and also you can manage and manipulate your data very easily. So let's have an example of database where you need databases, right? Suppose you have an online telephone directory. Okay, so in that case, if you need to store the name of that person, address, phone number and other contact details, you need to have a place where you can store those data, and whenever you feel like, you can fetch them as well. So this is where you need a database, and that is why database is one of the most used part whenever you are going to talk about any company. The companies like Zomato, Swiggy, Ola, Uber, whatever the company we can talk about, even in the startups also, they maintain their own database. Because if they are not going to store their data, how can they actually focus their data, right? So now let's have a look at the another example of database. Suppose you have an online library. So we are quite familiar with PDF version of every books, right? So in that case, if you have an online library, that time you will have a millions of books. But wait, how can you store them if you don't have a database? In order to maintain their book and in order to maintain their proper history of books they need to have a database, right? Now let's have a look at what is database management system. First, you need a container where you can actually store your data. Now you need a process where you can maintain your data. So a database management system is basically a software where you can store, retrieve, define and manage your data in a database. So in short, it is known as DBMS. Now have a look at how DBMS comes into the picture and what is the history of database management system. So in 1960, Charles Bachman designed first DBMS system. In 1970, Codd introduced IBM's information management system, that is IMS. In 1976, Peter Chain coined and defined the entity relationship model, also known as ER model. In 1980, relational model becomes a widely accepted database component. Now in 1985, object-oriented DBMS develops and it comes into the picture. So object-oriented DBMS is quite familiar with our object-oriented language. They quite maintain the same procedure. In 1990, incorporation of object orientation in relational DBMS. Then in 1991, Microsoft ships MS Access, a personal DBMS, and that displays all other personal DBMS products. And in 1995, first internet database applications came into the picture. In lastly, 1997, XML applied to database processing and many vendors begin to integrate XML into DBMS products. So this is how the full evaluation of database management system came into the picture. Now let's have a look at what are the most used database management system software we have. So let's have a look at what are the most used database management system we have in our software. We have MySQL, Oracle, SQLite, MariaDB and PostgreSQL, right? So these are the type of database management system we have. Now let's have a look at types of database management system, like how can you store your data, right? So maybe it can be hierarchical database, can be network database, relational database or object-oriented database. So when we talk about relational database is basically when you relate your data with each other. We will have a look at that as well. Now let's have a look at what is relational database management system, the thing I was talking before. A relational database management system, which known as RDBMS, is used for the database management system of DBMS. The concept is based on the relational model as introduced by E.F. Codd. Now, there are some key concepts we have in RDBMS. So let's have a look at that. What is a key, right? Key is not a normal key we can think of. But wait, this is something, a concept has an important role in relational database management system. This technique is used for identifying the unique rows from table and also help to establish relationship between the tables. Okay, but why do we need to create a relationship between the table? So basically, if you create a relationship between tables, that time it's easy for you to fetch data. It's easy for you to join two tables, right? So this actually makes our lives easy when we want to go for manipulating a big amount of data, right? Normally the data we got in industry, that is huge. The datas are basically unstructured or semi-structured. That time if you need to process those data and you need to make a relation between them, then that's easy for you to make a relationship between them, right? Now let's come to the types of key we have in RDBMS. We have primary key, super key, candidate key, alternate key, composite key, and foreign key. So when we come to talk about primary key is basically the main part of SQL, you can say. So it's help us to reduce the data redundancy. So if you have same data twice in your data set, that time it will not take the same data twice. So it will help you to have a distinct data in your database. Now let's have a look at what is SQL stands for. So SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It helps to access and manipulate your database. And SQL became a standard of the American National Standards Institute, that is known as ANSI, in 1986. And of the International Organization for Standardization, ISO, in 1987. But what is ANSI SQL? So we can see that there are lots of software we have for SQL, but they also have their own syntaxes, right? But in American National Standard Institute make a SQL version called ANSI SQL, where the syntax same for all the databases or all the softwares you have. When you have a lots of software but you just need to know ANSI SQL, that time you can use any software and you can do the query anytime using this ANSI SQL. You don't need to go for learning different syntaxes for that. Now let's have a look at what is MySQL. So we already know MySQL is basically a software where you can use this SQL concepts. Now let's have a look at how can you install MySQL. Installing MySQL is quite easy. You just need to go to their official website and you will get options called download. From that download option, you just need to choose your system configuration and you just need to download their files for MySQL. MySQL also have an enterprise edition. If you want to use MySQL for your enterprise edition, you need to pay for that. But if you don't need to use MySQL for the enterprise edition, in that time, you just need to use their free versions. Now let's have a look at what are the type of commands we have in MySQL. So we have DDL, DQL, DML, DCL, and TCL, right? So all total we have 5 types of command. But wait, why do we need these commands, right? So let's have a look at what is DDL command. DDL is basically data definition language. It helps to define the database schema and deals with description of the database. Also have a power to deal with creating and modifying the structure of database object. Right? So let's have a look at what are the commands we can refer as a DDL command. So create. When do we use create command, right? So this command is used to create the database. It's also have some objects like table, index, function, views, store procedure, and triggers. So if you want to create your first database, you need to write create database and then your database name. So this is how if you need to create a database or a table or a index, anything, you need to write the create command. So this is how it comes under DDL. So now comes drop. Drop is mainly used to delete objects from the databases. So if you want to delete some particular record from your database, you can use drop command. Now comes alter. Alter is basically used to alter the structure of the database. If you want to change a variable data types in the table, that time you can use alter. Then comes truncate. But what is truncate? Truncate command is to remove all the records from a table, which includes all memory allocated for the records are removed. Suppose, let me give you an example. You have a table called student table and you have some columns and attributes as well. Maybe you have 3-4 columns, that is known as the attributes. Now you have a 10 rows, right? You have 10 rows of column. And if you want to delete all of them, but you don't want to delete the structure of the table, that time you need to use truncate. Truncate will delete all the records from your table, but this table schema or the table structure will be there in your database. Now comes the comment. Basically, this command is used to add comments to the data dictionary. And lastly come rename. And this is used to rename an object existing in the database. From the name itself, we can have an idea that how and what rename was. Okay. So these are the DDL commands we have in MySQL. Now let's have a look at what is DML command. DML is basically data manipulation language, right? This DML commands handle all the data manipulation part. It includes most important parts of the SQL. Let's have a look at what is DML command. So we have insert command. From the name itself, you can see that it's already referring if you want to insert any data, right? If you need to insert any data in your database, you need to use insert command. Insert is used to insert the data in the table. Now comes the update command. So basically it helps to reduce existing data within a table, right? So if you want to update any data in your table, you can use update command. Then comes the delete command. This delete commands records from a database table, right? So basically this delete commands also helps to delete the records from a database. But wait, what's the difference between delete and truncate, right? So the difference between delete and truncate, if you want to remove one particular row from your database, and if you use truncate, it will delete all the data, right? But some of the cases, maybe you need only one data to be deleted from your database. That time you need to use delete command. Now let's have a look at what is DQL. DQL is basically a data query language. It is used to make a query on the data within a schema object. The main focus of DQL command is to get some schema relation based on the query passed into it. And we have a command called select. Basically, this select commands are used to retrieve all the data from the table. If you want to add some condition to retrieve the data, if you just want to take all the data from your dataset, what you need to use? You need to use select command. Now let's have a look at what is DCL command. DCL command is data control language. From the name itself, you can understand this command is basically used to control the database. Now it deals with rights and permission of the database, works for controlling part of the data. We have only two commands under DCL. One is grant. Basically, if you want to give any access privilege to someone, that time you need to use a grant command. And revoke is used to withdraw the user access privilege given by using the grant command. So these are the two basic command and most important command of DCL. Now let's have a look at what is TCL. TCL is basically a transaction control language, right? From the name itself, you can understand that if you want to control the transaction, you need to use TCL command. We have some of the command under TCL like commit, rollback, save point, and save transaction. So what is commit stands for? If you want to commit a transaction, that time you need to use a commit, right? Now, if you want to use a rollback, so rollback's a transaction for any error occurs, right? And the save point is basically used to save a point within a transaction. And lastly, the last command comes, that is save transaction. It specifies the characteristics for the transaction. Now let's have a look at the basics commands. We already see that DQL, DDL, DCL, DML, right? Now if you want to do them in a proper practical way, so basically you want to make a database, okay? How can you do that? Right, create database and then the database name. For my case, it is demo. Now, if you say, okay, I have created my database, now I want to use that. If you don't specify which database you want to go for, that time you will get an error in MySQL Workbench. So you need to write use and then the database name, that is demo. And be sure that you are using a semicolon after any language, after any query you have written over here, right? This is the syntax for MySQL. Now, if you want to see how many databases you have in your MySQL Workbench, you need to write a command called show databases. Now, if you want to insert data to your MySQL database or the particular database like demo, how can you do that? In that case, you need to write insert into customer, the table name you want to give. Now the attributes you have in your table, right? So you have customer name, contact name, address, city, postal code and country. Now after writing values, you need to provide the value for each one of the attribute you have mentioned. For my case, customer name is Preeti and contact name is Ms. Chatterjee and the address is 4/56 College Street 21 and the city is Kolkata, postal code is 7,32,000 and the country is India. So this is how we insert data in our databases, right? So I hope it helps you to understand the basic concepts of MySQL and what is basically a SQL is and why do we need to have a database management system. So if you also want to make a course and if you want to skill up yourself doing these courses, then please go to Great Learning Academy where you will get almost 80 plus free courses which includes these concepts as well. And after completing your course, you can claim your certificate that is also for free. And if you want to do this course with your mobile application, then also you can start using Great Learning mobile app, right? I hope this video helped you to understand all the concept about SQL. Please do let us know in the comment section that how you feel about the video, and also please subscribe Great Learning to get updated with the new videos like this. Thank you so much.